The following tale is plucked from the pages of a nameless tome, a manuscript whispered of in hushed tones by those who dare tread too close to the edge of sanity. It is said that merely speaking of the events you are about to hear invites danger beyond reckoning. For these are the deeds and misdeeds of souls whose fates were sealed the moment they crossed into shadowed realms where darkness reigns eternal. Be warned, listener, do not repeat what you hear to others. Do not commit these words to memory, nor linger on the images conjured within your mind. To do so is to risk incurring the wrath of, well, perhaps it is best if I leave the name unspoken. Even now, it claws at the corners of my mind. Know this, should you choose to continue, you do so at your own peril. And remember, you have been warned. This is a tale called The Last Pirate's Folly. The roar of cannons echoed across the rolling waves, and the briny scent of gunpowder hung thick in the air. The once proud galleon, the Crimson Widow, cut through the stormy seas like a wounded beast, her sails tattered, her hull scorched and splintered. The deck was littered with broken barrels, splintered planks, and the bodies of fallen pirates. Captain Sophia Jade Sabre stood at the helm, her piercing green eyes narrowed against the stinging rain. Lightning flashed, casting a ghostly light across her fierce, flame-red hair, braided tightly down her back. Her namesake, the emerald-encrusted saber, hung at her hip, its blade gleaming faintly even in the tempest's darkness. "Damn them all," she snarled, spitting a curse into the wind. Her knuckles tightened around the ship's wheel as she glared at the silhouettes of 3 Spanish pirate hunter warships giving chase across the heaving waves. They were hunting her like a pack of wolves, their red and yellow flags snapping ominously in the storm's fury. "Captain!" a voice shouted from her left. "We can't keep this up much longer. The Widow's hull's taking on water, and we're running low on powder." Sophia turned to see her first mate, a hulking man named Cragg, his face a mask of grime and desperation. He clutched the hilt of a bloodied cutlass, his gaze darting nervously between her and the pursuing vessels. "We hold them off as long as we can," Sophia shouted back, her voice carrying the unyielding authority that had kept her crew in line for years. "We're not giving up the fight just yet." But even as she spoke, she knew the truth. The Crimson Widow was doomed. The Spanish fleet had hounded them for days, driving them further into treacherous waters. With each cannonade, the pirate ship grew weaker, her crew more desperate. And then there was the prisoner. Sophia's gaze shifted briefly to the rear hold of the ship, where the door had been reinforced with heavy iron bars. No one knew the true nature of the being they had captured during their raid on a lone merchant vessel weeks before. But one thing was certain, it was no ordinary prisoner. The crew had spoken of strange noises emanating from the hold at night, low, guttural whispers that made the skin crawl, and a chilling, otherworldly presence that seemed to seep through the very wood of the ship. Several men had gone mad merely from standing guard near the door, and those who had ventured too close claimed they felt an unseen force tugging at their minds. Sophia had taken every precaution to keep the prisoner locked away, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that it was biding its time, waiting for something, or someone. "Captain!" Cragg's urgent voice broke through her thoughts. "They're closin' in fast. We'll be in range their broadside in minutes." Sophia gritted her teeth and turned the wheel sharply, steering the Crimson Widow into the teeth of the storm. The wind howled like a banshee, and the ship's timbers groaned in protest. "We need more speed," she bellowed to the crew. "Hoist every scrap of sail we have left, or it's the depths for us all." The crew scrambled to obey, but even as they struggled with the rigging, a shudder ran through the ship. It was subtle at first, like the tremor of a living creature awakening from a long slumber. Then, a deep, resonant hum vibrated through the deck, causing the very air around them to ripple. Sophia's heart lurched as she realized where the sound was coming from, the rear hold. "What in the hell?" she whispered, her gaze fixed on the barred door. Before she could react, the door exploded outward with a deafening crack, splinters flying in all directions. A wave of darkness surged from within, and a figure stepped out, a figure draped in shadow, its form shifting and warping like smoke caught in a hurricane. The crew recoiled, shouts of fear and confusion rising above the storm's wail. Sophia's hand instinctively went to the hilt of her saber, but she hesitated, eyes widening in disbelief. The prisoner's face was obscured beneath a hood, but she could see two eyes burning like molten gold within the shadowy depths. When it spoke, its voice was a low, echoing whisper that seemed to reverberate through the marrow of her bones. "Captain Sophia Jade Saber, your time has come." Sophia felt a chill crawl down her spine as the creature's gaze fixed on her. It took a step forward, its form barely visible in the darkness swirling around it. The crew backed away, murmuring prayers and clutching their weapons uselessly. "What are you?" Sophia demanded, forcing her voice to remain steady. She drew her saber, the emeralds embedded in the hilt flashing like green fire. "Answer me, or I'll—" "You will do nothing," the creature interrupted, its voice calm, almost amused. "Your weapon cannot harm me, human." Sophia's grip tightened, but she knew the truth of its words. There was a power emanating from this being, a force that felt ancient and insurmountable. She swallowed hard, lowering her blade slightly. "What do you want?" she asked, her tone softer now, wary. The creature tilted its head, the shadows around it twisting and writhing like serpents. "Freedom, of course. But not just mine." It gestured toward the sky, where the storm clouds churned ominously. "They are coming." "Who?" Sophia's gaze followed its gesture, but she saw only darkness and flashes of lightning. "The ones who will rend this ship and your enemies to dust," the creature replied. "They will tear through wood and steel as if it were parchment, and no man aboard any of these vessels will survive, save one." Sophia's heart pounded in her chest. "You're lying." "Am I?" The creature's smile was a chilling, inhuman thing. "You are fleeing for your life, Captain. Desperation clings to you like a shroud. Yet there is a way for you to escape this doom, if you listen to what I have to offer." Sophia hesitated, her mind racing. Everything about this felt wrong, but what choice did she have? The Spanish warships were closing in, and she had no illusions about their fate if they were captured. "Speak quickly," she said through gritted teeth. "What's your bargain?" "Release me," the creature said simply. "And I will ensure that you escape this destruction. Not even a hair on your head will be harmed." "And what of my crew?" Sophia demanded. "Their fates are already sealed," the creature murmured, almost pityingly. "There is no future for them, save death." Sophia's jaw clenched. "If I let you go, what happens to the others? The ones chasing us?" The creature's eyes gleamed with a terrible light. "Their suffering will be beyond imagination. But it is not your concern, is it? You care only for your own life." Sophia's hand trembled on the hilt of her saber. Could she really sacrifice her crew? Betray the men and women who had followed her through countless battles? Yet, the thought of being captured, of being tortured or killed by the Spanish, it filled her with a terror she couldn't suppress. What are you?" she whispered again, her voice breaking. The creature's smile widened. "I am the hand of vengeance unleashed. I am retribution made flesh. I am the storm that will cleanse this sea of filth and bloodshed." Before Sophia could respond, a blinding light erupted in the sky above. She shielded her eyes as the storm clouds parted, revealing shapes descending from the heavens, massive, sleek vessels, unlike any ship she had ever seen. They glided through the air as if it were water, their surfaces shimmering with an otherworldly sheen. The crew gasped, cries of panic rising as the vessels closed in, surrounding the pirate ship and the Spanish warships alike. What are they?" Cragg shouted, his voice edged with hysteria. "Salvation," the creature whispered, its gaze never leaving Sophia's. "Or damnation. The choice is yours. Sophia's mind reeled. She glanced at her crew, her loyal, terrified crew, and then back at the creature. A decision formed in her mind, cold and unyielding. "Swear to me," she said, her voice barely audible over the roaring wind. "Swear that I'll survive this. Swear it on your own life." The creature inclined its head. "I swear it, Captain." With a single motion, Sophia stepped forward and sliced through the chains binding the creature. The metal links shattered, and the shadows around the creature seemed to expand, enveloping it in a cloak of darkness. "Thank you," it murmured, its form dissolving into mist. And then, chaos erupted. The strange vessels in the sky unleashed beams of searing light, lancing down upon the Spanish fleet with devastating precision. The sea itself seemed to shudder under the onslaught, as if recoiling from the raw power unleashed. Explosions ripped through the air as the beams struck the warships, their hulls vaporizing in an instant. Masts, sails, and men were incinerated in the blink of an eye, leaving nothing but smoldering wreckage and a spreading cloud of ash. Sophia watched in horror and awe as the beams tore through the Spanish warships one by one. The crew of the Crimson Widow staggered back, shielding their eyes from the blinding light. Some cried out in fear, while others simply fell to their knees, murmuring desperate prayers to whatever gods might be listening. "Captain, what have you done?" Cragg breathed, his face pale and drawn. Before Sophia could answer, a deafening roar filled the air, a sound that seemed to resonate from the very depths of the ocean. The water churned violently, and a massive, dark shape rose from the waves, casting a shadow over the entire battlefield. It was one of the vessels, but this one was different. Its surface was black as midnight, with jagged, angular lines that pulsed with a sickly, greenish light. It hovered above the shattered remains of the Spanish fleet, its hull crackling with energy. A voice, deep, resonant, and filled with a chilling malice, echoed across the water. "Behold the price of defiance." Sophia's heart hammered in her chest as she realized the voice was coming from the creature she had released. Its form, now fully visible, floated above the deck of the Crimson Widow, its eyes blazing with an unholy fire. The Spanish ships that remained intact turned and fled, their crews abandoning all thoughts of battle. But the strange vessels in the sky moved swiftly, encircling the fleeing ships and cutting off their escape. Beams of light rained down, and in moments, the Spanish fleet was reduced to nothing more than a graveyard of splintered wood and charred bodies. The crew of the Crimson Widow stood frozen, their eyes wide with disbelief and terror. The sea around them was littered with debris, the acrid scent of burning flesh mingling with the salt air. Sophia's breath caught in her throat as the dark vessel hovered closer, its massive shadow falling over her ship. The creature's voice, now amplified by the vessel's speakers, sent a shiver down her spine. "Your enemy is defeated, Captain Sophia Jade Saber. But your bargain is not yet complete." Sophia stepped forward, her hand trembling on the hilt of her saber. "I held up my end of the deal," she said, her voice strained but defiant. "I released you. Now keep your promise." The creature's laughter echoed across the water. "I will honor our bargain, Captain. But did you truly think you could release me without consequences?" Sophia's stomach twisted with dread. What do you mean?" The creature's eyes burned with a malevolent light. "You released a force beyond your comprehension. And now, you and your crew will bear witness to the full extent of my power." Before Sophia could react, the dark vessel unleashed a pulse of energy that washed over the Crimson Widow. The crew screamed as the pulse tore through them, their bodies convulsing violently. One by one, they crumpled to the deck, lifeless. "No!" Sophia cried, her voice breaking with anguish. "You swore I would survive." "You will," the creature whispered, its form dissolving into a cloud of darkness that swirled around her. "But you will be the only one." Sophia's vision blurred as the darkness enveloped her, pulling her down into a void of shadows and despair. She felt the world slipping away, felt herself falling into a cold, endless abyss. And then, nothing. When Sophia awoke, she was lying on a small piece of driftwood, the remains of the Crimson Widow scattered around her. The sea was calm now, the storm gone as if it had never existed. The sky above was a brilliant blue, the sun shining down on the wreckage of what had once been a proud pirate ship. Sophia groaned, pushing herself up with trembling arms. Pain lanced through her body, and she glanced down to see a deep gash across her side, her blood staining the wood beneath her. "Where?" she whispered, her voice hoarse and weak. All around her, the sea was littered with bodies and debris. The strange vessels were gone, as were the Spanish warships. It was as if the entire battle had been nothing more than a terrible dream. But the bodies of her crew, floating lifeless in the water, were all too real. Sophia choked back a sob, tears streaming down her face. She had betrayed them. She had made a deal with the devil, and now she was the only one left to suffer the consequences. The water erupted with a frenzy of splashes and violent thrashing, a chaotic symphony that made Sophia's head jerk up, her eyes widening in horror. Sharks. Dozens of them, their sleek bodies cutting through the water like blades, circled the wreckage, devouring the remains of the captain's former crew in a frenzied blur of blood and teeth, while others fixed their cold, predatory eyes on her with unrelenting hunger. "No," Sophia whispered, her heart pounding wildly. "No, no, no." She tried to move, but her limbs were weak, her body drained of strength. The sharks closed in, their movements graceful, almost elegant. One of them, larger than the others, lunged forward, its jaws snapping shut mere inches from her leg. Sophia screamed, kicking out desperately. The shark retreated, but she knew it was only a matter of time before they struck again. She glanced around, searching for anything she could use to defend herself. But there was nothing. No weapons, no shelter. Just the endless sea and the relentless, hungry eyes of the sharks. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please, someone, anyone." But there was no one. She was alone, adrift in a sea of blood and death. Sophia closed her eyes, a bitter smile twisting her lips. She had survived the battle, survived the wrath of the creature she had freed. But in the end, what did it matter? The sharks lunged again, and this time, she didn't fight. She welcomed the pain, the cold, crushing agony that tore through her flesh. She welcomed the darkness that followed. And as the sea closed over her, as the world faded to black, the last thing she heard was the creature's voice, whispering softly in her mind. "This is your reward, Captain. The eternal embrace of the sea. The price of betrayal." Far above, hidden within the clouded sky, the dark vessel hovered in silence. Its hull shimmered faintly, the energies within it settling back into a calm, steady hum. The creature stood at the vessel's helm, its gaze fixed on the spot where the Crimson Widow had met its end. There was no satisfaction in its expression, no triumph. Only a cold, detached curiosity. "Such fragile beings," it murmured, its voice barely more than a breath. "So easily broken, so easily led astray." It turned away, its form dissolving into mist as it moved through the empty halls of the vessel. The other ships, the ones that had rained destruction upon the sea, hovered silently in formation, their dark silhouettes a stark contrast against the bright sky. "Return to the skies," the creature commanded, its voice resonating through the air. "There are other seas to cleanse, other debts to collect." The vessels began to ascend, disappearing into the clouds one by one. The creature lingered a moment longer, its gaze drifting back to the waters below. "Farewell, Captain Sophia Jade Saber," it whispered, a faint smile curving its lips. "May the sea grant you the peace you sought in life." And then it was gone, leaving only the empty sky and the still, silent sea below. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this tale. I hope you enjoyed the story and felt immersed in this world of fantasy and adventure. If you'd like to hear more epic stories like this, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you never miss the next chapter in our journey. See you in the next adventure.